Hi, everybody. Welcome to Overland News from Overland Expo. I'm Nick Janes, Director of Communications, and with me, Rick Stowe, our Associate Editor. Hey, Rick, how you doing?
Doing great.
Good. I'm glad to hear it, and thanks for joining me again. And man, it's what a time it is to be an Overlander in the Overlander News. There's so much new, exciting stuff coming all the time now. I felt like we had a little bit of a drought in news, but man, we're flooding now. Let's start off with one that just broke this afternoon. Toyota has teased that the Land Cruiser nameplate is returning to the United States. It put up a video that you can see here on its Facebook earlier today, that just shows, well, Toyota Land Cruiser placards, nameplates on historic vehicles. And the internet is taking this to mean that Land Cruiser is coming back to the US after all. What do you think, Rick?
Yeah, so this kind of happened a little quicker than I thought when they discontinued the latest series of Land Cruiser here with us in the States. I thought, this won't be forever, but I didn't think it would be the course of just a couple of months. I will also say I'm kind of having some flashbacks to the early Tacoma teases where I'm not getting my hopes up to see this thing anytime soon because we know they drew that out for a while. Of course, we were there for the actual reveal in person, and that was really cool. But I'm curious to see where it goes. Love cruisers, a big fan. There's several models on my wish list. So yeah, I don't think there's any doubt this will be well received here in the States.
Yeah, that's true. And what it could actually be is interesting because let's step back. Toyota Land Cruiser 300 was not brought to the United States, and we can argue why and why not, maybe another episode. But it did come here in, of course, famously the form of LX 600, which we made into the ultimate Overland vehicle. Well, we thought that was sort of it for the nameplate in the United States, because if Land Cruiser in the globe isn't here, then what could Land Cruiser be in the United States? Well, I guess we're going to find out. I think my best guess, I posed a guess on the Instagrams last week that maybe following the Trail Hunter Tacoma and then over Trail Lexus GX, which we'll talk about here next, maybe Land Cruiser will be the ultimate off-road trim of the new 4Runner. And as my buddy put it, he's like, well, that's just dumb enough that they just might do it. So we'll see. But I mean, I've also heard rumblings that it could be an FJ40 style vehicle, a little two-door crazy off-roader. And that would harken back to, obviously, the first Land Cruiser that we ever saw. And we're seeing some of those historic images here of what the old Land Cruiser used to be and maybe would look like again. And I wonder, at first I dismissed it. I'm like, nah, that's silly, that's dumb. But the more I thought about it, Rick, although we haven't seen the FJ Cruiser here in the United States for several years, it did exist internationally until earlier this year, and they just discontinued it. So maybe replacing an FJ Cruiser, a vintagey style two-door, three-door kind of vehicle with a new Land Cruiser could make some sense. Would you see one of those in a Toyota showroom?
Yeah, I think that would be a really cool move for them to make because there's no doubt that SUVs just in general have got larger and larger as the years have went on, including the Land Cruiser series, going from the relatively small, or let's say actually really small 40 series into the 60s, the 80s, and up to, the 200 series. Like, it doesn't even look like the same vehicle. I think I've always thought the FJ Cruiser was like 90% there, like a really cool idea. And I actually, back when they came out, was kind of, that age where I was like, oh, I got to have one of these. Until I sat down in one, and like visibility and stuff like that just wasn't up to par for me. So I would love to see them kind of take another swing at that. And something that we talked about, maybe middle of last year, was when Toyota Japan did a presentation about their future electric vehicles. There was a 70 series-esque vehicle that was included, and it would be really neat to see something like that brought back, especially here in the States, because we never got the 70 series. You had to get creative if you wanted to acquire one of those.
Yeah, totally. And I would be shocked, honestly, if it went to the 70 series style, because 70 series comes in quad cab, pickup truck, be it the 79, also the Troopy kind of four-door, two-door, people hauler or four-door people hauler. And again, that would sort of compete with 4Runner. So to me, doesn't make quite a lot of sense. So I do think if it did come back, it would be kind of like a extreme, like Wrangler two-door Rubicon style vehicle, a la FJ40. But then you've got to wonder where the market for that is because, Jeep kept itself alive on Wrangler Unlimited, right? I think they sell 6-to-1 or more of Unlimited to just regular two-door. But there is something to be said that since they did bring manual transmission back to or continued it for Tacoma, that they may be sort of amortizing that, the necessity of a manual in sort of a vintagey style vehicle. And I'm sure they'd be built on the same, assembly line down in Mexico. So, I mean, it all makes sense. It all starts to come together. I just don't know where the buyers are because everyone's going towards more big off-road luxury SUV, which I think teases us up for our next topic very well. Rick, you want to tell us about the latest off-road luxury SUV we saw?
Yeah. Something that did not have a long drawn-out teaser was the new GX550 from Lexus. We got that up on the site on the Compass. You can check out kind of a deep dive. I will say that on paper, it's really impressive. Just a couple things to hit. It's got that 3.4 V6 with an impressive 349 horsepower and 479 coming for torque, 8,000 pounds on towing. The 14-inch infotainment center, not surprising from Lexus. But then I think, especially for the Overland crowd, really interesting, the Overtrail and Overtrail Plus trims, 33-inch tires on 18-inch wheels. They have a cool kind of, I was excited to see the heritage-based two-tone color combos there, and an aluminum skid plate. I will say, though, that while it looks good on paper, I am not loving this thing on the exterior. What are your thoughts, Nick?
Yes. When I first saw it, honestly, I thought it was a bit of a design mess. It's a box, but with how many corners does a square have? Let's find out. It's a lot. The idea of it seems simple. It looks like they tried to make an LR3, but then it just went but line and body line and more curvings and for God's sake, the wheel arch is squarey. It's okay. It's chill out. You were getting around me. I like the vertical kind of windshield. That's cool. And the back end looks like Grand Wagoneer to me, like Jeep. And it's got some Jeep Compass-y stuff looking to it. I think it's a step in the right direction. And I'm so glad they didn't go more jelly bean, huge spindle grill. I think we're moving in the right direction, especially for us Overlanders. But, it'll be interesting. Another point, and you hit it, the 3.4 liter. Let's make it clear, the LX600 has a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6. This is a 3.4 liter twin turbo V6. Why? I don't understand. Why go all, because obviously they either did different, connecting rods or different pistons or a different crankshaft or both. Why not just detune the 3.5? Or why not just put the iForce Max 4-banger system that we see from Taco in there, which makes more horsepower, right? Or similar in similar torques. So why go to to make 0.1 different liters in this is weird to me. I just don't understand that part.
No, the same thing. It's an odd move for such a small change when there's other power plants out there that I think would have been a good match for that rig.
Yeah, and I don't think any luxury buyer is going to turn their nose up to a hybrid 4-cylinder. For God's sake, BMW, Mercedes, everybody else is doing it. So nor is an LX600 owner going to poo-poo an LX600 if it had the exact same power plant as the GX550. You know what I mean? Why they can't just have the same displacement engine, I do not understand. Hey, but it's Toyota, whatever. You got to keep those power plant guys happy, those engineers happy. But will be interesting to see what people do with it. I'm sure it's going to get built up and built crazy right away. One thing I will notice that those factory front little skid platey thing we see on the front there has some air vents. So I hope that the aftermarket brands like CBI and C4 Fabrication and others are ready to let their front skid plates and bumpers breathe, because I think that thing has some probably some big air cooler interchangers that for the turbos that need to get some air across them. So you can't just slap a big piece of steel across it. You're going to have to figure out ways to ventilate it and then also fit a winch back there. We'll see. Yeah. I think people are maybe overly excited. I think that they need to curb their enthusiasm just a little bit, but we'll see. It'll be at Overland Expo PNW, which is by the time this airs, what, 2 weeks away? So
Yeah,
we'll see it in person
just
very
around the
soon.
corner.
Yeah. Finally here, we've got a really cool review from our William Robertson, an Ubco two-wheel drive electric bike. You want to tell us a little more about that, Rick?
Yeah, I was super excited when William let us know he was going to be reviewing the special edition of Ubco's bike. I got to ride one of these a couple years ago at Overland Expo. The Ubco crew is always doing demo rides, and I definitely suggest that any attendees take them up on that offer. I'm not gonna lie, at first the looks, I was like, this thing's kind of odd. It's a little scooter-esque, with a foot platform kind of design. But between the two-wheel drive, that battery having a super low center of gravity, or I should say, helping out with that, it is a lot of fun. It seems like it's nearly impossible to lay it down. And depending on kind of like your purposes and how you overland, or maybe even your life at home, it could fill a cool spot in the vehicle quiver, we'll say. A couple of things that William touches on that I want to hit on is this is not technically an electric bike. Electric bicycles, Nick, are super popular now, and it seems like new brands and heritage bike brands are getting into that. This is DOT spec with mirrors and lights and all that. It has a VIN. It can be tagged. It's like you noted, it's technically an electric motorcycle. With that two-wheel drive, you can not only get up to speed quickly because it's electric and all that low-end torque is instantaneous, but it also is great for rough terrain because you don't have to worry about like shifting your weight and spinning out. And at least the special edition has even got some travel, some suspension with 130 millimeters in the front and 120 in the rear. I don't know if I would be getting this thing actually to take in the backcountry, but honestly more like around town, here on the farm, stuff like that. I think it would be a super fun way to get, go grab something from the store. Nick, I know you live in a much more metropolitan area. What do you think about something like that? And then, maybe throwing it on the back of one of your trucks and taking it out in the backcountry.
Yeah, I mean, living here in Portland, although it is bike friendly, it's not necessarily motorcycle friendly, and you probably can't ride that thing, or ought not to, in the bike lanes. I'm sure the militant hipsters would throw paint cans at you if you did. So you'd be on the street, and I don't know. It's I don't see it honestly as a street machine. I would use it in the backcountry, however. Again, it sort of ties into what we talked about with Overland trailers. Like if you're going to go spend some time in the backcountry and really post up and do a base camp, this would be great to run around with the dog, go grab some firewood, explore some single tracks that are nearby, things of that nature. Sure, I would definitely throw it on the back of one of my trucks, but would I use it in the city in my daily life? Probably not. I also work from home, and I'm not going to go grab a bottle of wine at the Safeway, with this thing. So I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely neat. A two-wheel drive to me just makes it really, I mean, like, why get this over a Honda Trail 125? Two-wheel drive. That's why. To me, that's it. Having effectively all-wheel drive on a little electric bike is really, really trick. So if you want to read more and learn more, please check out William Robertson's story on the Compass, which is really cool. We're running out of time here, Rick, but I will encourage everyone, if you're not already, please come see us in Redmond, Oregon, July 7th through 9th at Overland Expo Pacific Northwest. I think we've touched on it in other videos. It's going to be almost the biggest event. We're at 380 exhibitors right now, adding more by the day. To put that in perspective, we had 417 at West last year, including 30,000 people, and ticket sales on P&W are popping off. And we also got word from GMC that they will be debuting the first ever, I want to say, probably first ever Canyon AT4X AEV edition at the Pacific Northwest show as well. So if coming to get outfitted and educated for your own Overland adventures weren't enough, come check out the all-new GMC Canyon AT4X AEV edition. Okay, with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Rick, for chatting with me as always. Please, folks, like, subscribe, and hit the notification button like you do with all your favorite shows. I'm Nick Janes. Thanks for watching.